Board of Trustees with the Village of Cambridge, our meeting of November 12th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Trustee Brennig.
Here.
Franklin. Blackwood.
Here.
Hollenbeck.
Here.
Cracklow.
Here.
McNally.
Here. Okay, if we can stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Lisa, can you give us a status report as to whether or not this meeting has been properly posted?
It's been posted in the upper and lower levels of the Edmondson Community Center, Badger Bank, the Cambridge Post Office, and the village website.
Okay, all right. We are now going to go into public comment. And I see that we have a number of people here. I don't know if all of you would like to speak. We are going to give you that opportunity. And Paula, would you mind just keeping time on this?
I think
Or at
Lisa's
least
got her
spending
timer.
this?
Yep, and
Okay.
it'll go off. How long?
How many people would like to speak? Just, okay, 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, who wants to go first?
If you could give your name, please.
Sure.
And your address.
My name is Joe Schulz, 341 Waverly Drive. Cambridge Village Board members and Financial Committee members. To say that my wife and I are angry about the handling of the village finances, requiring us to take out a $300,000 loan to cover the 2025 budget expenses would be a major understatement. We are furious, to keep it PG. To my knowledge, this was not the first time this overspend has happened. From the information I received, the village was, per my knowledge, this was not the first time we overspent. From my knowledge, we received the village general funds had a balance of $1.1 million at the end of 2019, and by the end of 2023, that balance was zero. So the village overspent by at least $1.1 million over the courses of 4 years. This is absolutely absurd. Now, I'm not going to stand up here and pretend that I'd be an expert on the inner workings of city government and finances, but I sure as hell can balance a checkbook. And this current financial council has proven time and time again they're incapable of this very basic task. Anyone can create a budget and just slap a bunch of numbers down on a piece of paper and say, this is what I plan to spend next year. But it takes a lot of additional thought and knowledge to be realistic with the budget. You need to factor in inflation, contractual financial obligations with vendors outside that we use for garbage service, fire and EMS, changes in the economy, and so on. I can see having an issue with overspending for a year or so due to unforeseen circumstances. For example, the 2020 pandemic. But when you go into your budget for the following year, you need to assess where you overspent and make adjustments. This board and financial committee has failed to make those proper adjustments for at least the last 4 years that I'm aware of. And their solution for this mismanagement is take out a $300,000 loan and raise everyone's taxes. Every family in this town is feeling the crunch of inflation. On top of our asinine water and sewer bills, don't even get me started on that. We all have to budget and compensate for that. That may mean driving that older car for a couple more years, eating less dinners out, delaying that home improvement project you were planning on doing this year, and so on. But at the end of the day, we all need to budget to live within our means. This town has failed to do this year and year again, and in turn, it's making it more difficult for families to stick to their budget because you are now taking more money out of our pockets due to your mismanagement. During the last board meeting, this topic was discussed. Former board member Bill Christ, yes, I said former board member Bill Christ, because he resigned after this meeting due to how disrespectful he was treated for exposing what budget funds had been distributed. Bill brought up multiple line items in the 2025 budget that needed to be addressed pertaining to the revenue estimations.
Sir, I'm going to...
I can borrow some time from Doug. When this was suggested, were made, Bill, a retired CPA, was talked down to, and treated as he had no idea what he was talking about. If you don't believe me, go back and watch the video from the last meeting yourself. I'm not going to call any specific names. You all know who you are. But you should be ashamed of yourselves for how you talked and treated to a fellow board member. It was absolutely uncalled for and disgraceful. It's my understanding that this recognition were on the agenda to be discussed during yesterday's financial committee meeting that was canceled. So does that mean that they're going to be discussed during tonight's meeting? If not, when will they be discussed? It would make sense to discuss those options before voting to take out a $300,000 loan. Seems pretty logical to me. It is also my understanding that the tax increase for the citizens is going to hit the debt service funds portion of our tax bill, as the general funds portion of our tax bill is already maxed out due to government guidelines. However, the money from the loan is actually going to be used for general funds. Is this even legal? Sounds a lot like we're robbing Peter to pay Paul to me. As mentioned earlier, this committee has proven time and time again they have no idea how to establish a realistic budget. So here's your chance to prove me wrong. What changes have been made for 2025 budget to ensure we don't overspend again? You can say we have a plan, but those are just empty words. What is your plan? What cuts are being made? What will we do to combat inflation? How are we going to address the fire and EMS mess this town is in right now? If history repeats itself, since it has since 2019, we are going to overspend again by another $300,000, and we still have to pay back the $300,000 loan. Does this mean that the plan is to slap the community with another tax hike next year? Instead of trying to sweep these poor financial decisions under the rug year after year, this committee owes it to the public to admit they screwed up and need to put together a realistic and achievable budget for 2025 and future years. And if you're not capable of doing this, it's time that you step down and get somebody in those seats that can. Thank you.
Okay, who else? Just raise your hand so I have an idea. Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Sarah Schulz. I have a brief statement, and then I also would like another 2 minutes and 30 seconds to read a statement from Bill Christ because he could not be here tonight. Thank you for letting me speak. I would like to first let the community know that I emailed this board on October 28th and have yet to get an email back from anyone. This board exists to represent the people, and I'm very frustrated no one had the decency to even respond. I would like to thank Mark for stopping by our home to discuss our frustrations, and we appreciate you at least acknowledging us. Secondly, we are, as my husband said, we are extremely upset. This board has been unable to budget properly for the past several years. I was previously a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. My husband and I had to sometimes make difficult decisions in order to not spend outside of our means. I did that for 10 years, and somehow we were able to pay our bills every month. That was through making tough decisions. Additionally, our middle school is presently teaching a business class to 8th graders. Part of the class is learning how finances, taxes, and budgeting work. If our 8th graders are expected to create a balanced budget for their grade, I'd certainly expect grown adults to be able to do so. You need to do better for this community or people are going to move. This is not a one-time issue. This has been going on for several years and we've had enough. Now, this next part, you can start my time again if you'd like. Bill asked for someone to read this since he is out of town and unable to be here tonight. It is time for action on all village finances. Please consider the following. Deficit spending for 6 years. The general fund has been deficit spending. Almost all government funds were overspent in 2023. Almost all of these funds were overspent in 2022. 2 of 3 proprietary funds were overspent in 2023. Almost all government funds have a negative fund balance at the end of 2023. There is no general fund cash left for emergencies. The village general fund went from $1.1 million at the end of 2019 to 0 at the end of 2023, to a negative position right now. The general fund spent $534,000 of 2024 tax collections on 2023 expenses. If this continues, the village is likely to have a qualified audit opinion. If that happens, it will affect future funding and interest rates, among other unknown impacts. Bill is asking that at a minimum you do the following. Actively participate in the reduced spending for the remaining part of 2024. Relook at the 2025 budget and be realistic. For example, please consider that you set the Cambridge portion of the fire and EMS budget for 2025 at the same amount as in 2022, 23, 24, and 25. This is totally unrealistic and does not account for 4 years of inflation, when other communities are seeing their fire and EMS costs skyrocket. The current proposal from the fire and EMS is asking for a 35% increase for 2025, and the proposal from an outside service will dictate much higher spending. Hoping that something will fall into your laps to keep spending flat is not a good strategy. Look forward realistically at 2026. Consider that in 26 you will need to budget for a full year instead of 7 months of a public works director. Also, you should plan on higher fire and EMS costs. There will also be other inflationary issues. Please plan ahead and use reasonable estimates. Don't expect the $210,000 budgeted in 2025 for the vineyard's incentive payments to fix your 2026 budget issues. Is your strategy to borrow funds again next year to balance the budget? Do a realistic written plan. Speaking in generalities that this or that will fix everything isn't realistic. It didn't work this year or in prior years. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Who else? Just raise your hand. I see a lady in the back, striped, black and white sweater. Recognize.
Hello, I'm Samantha Seaman. I'm representing the library here in Cambridge. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the library and all the services and things that we provided, just in recognition of the potential of losing $10,000 towards our funds for next year. So last year, the library had asked the village board to consider funding us at least what had been contributed the year prior, which was $105,000. Our defense for this was in the statistics. We still maintain that 53% of residents within Cambridge have library cards as of our 2023 counts. We've had a lot more people added, over 200 so far this year, get library cards. So clearly this is a service that the community wants and needs. We were also asked to consider expanding hours as well as program offerings for the community, both of which we did do this year. In March, we expanded our hours from 42 weekly to 48, including evening hours until 7 p.m. Monday through Thursday, where we only had one evening per week prior to this. And we added 2 extra hours on Saturday so that now we close at 2 p.m. instead of noon. When comparing our door count from April to September in 2023 versus 2024, we've seen an increase of over 1,500 people. Our summer numbers are significant in comparison to 2023 as well, due in part to a widely successful summer reading program which had over 250 people sign up for this year, as opposed to the 100 from last year. When we hired in May to replace staff members who changed positions, we prioritized people who had an interest and experience with program event planning. Our newest hire was simultaneously trained on library duties as well as planning and running programs for the community. Since her start, we've increased our adult offerings and added a few school-age programs to our calendar, including new opportunities like video game day and escape rooms. We now have a new writing and philosophy club that meet monthly, and are establishing a new book club and have brought in a number of speakers and craft opportunities for adults. Anyone who regularly attends the library will comment on the burgeoning newsletters that advertise our monthly offerings, and we have plans to continue into next year with a new makerspace becoming available and a focus on activities for teens. I just wanted to emphasize that we reconsider what our funding for the library is going to be for next year.
Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else? Just put your hand up.
Good evening. Jay Ames, representing the Department of Public Works Interim Director. The reason I'm here tonight is to speak because of an issue that happened last Friday morning, and it rose to the level that I had to call Chad, our police officer. I'm going to speak in generalities, and hopefully through this the public is a little more informed about how we work and what we're doing. First, the staff at the DPW and Water Department will not and should not tolerate verbal abuse while performing their duties. The village has a website, and we talk to and leave additional information on residents about leaf, compost, and brush collection. We are doing this according to village ordinance. We are making lists and who we have contacted and what for. This has become very time-consuming. However, these are our expectations when providing these services to residents. Materials are to be placed on the terrace. That is the area between the curb and the sidewalk, if you have a sidewalk. Compost must be placed in bins or on tarps. Materials must be in separate piles. If not followed, we damage expensive equipment. We do our best to be consistent, treat everyone the same. How it was done in the past is the past, and how things are going to be done is according to the village ordinances. We have good reasons for not placing materials in the roads. Number one, the ordinance. Number two, liability and risk to property owner in the village. You place things in the road and somebody has an accident and there's a lawsuit, everybody's going to have to speak to it, and it's expensive. Also, if things are put into the roadway, it can block the storm sewers and cause flooding. And lastly, if we get a snowstorm with those materials in the roadway, they'll be plowed and they'll end up in driveways, and who knows where the material's going to end up, but nobody's going to be happy about it. Also, I'm asking the public to be patient with us because we had a water leak this weekend that we're dealing with and have to spend time on. The Main Street decorations showed up this week, today, and we have to prepare them, and that all takes time. So forth, so on. The other thing that we're going to be doing this year is, because we are short on staff, is I've asked Lisa and the staff in the office, if we have complaints about snow removal, that they make a list of them. When snow removal is done and complete, somebody will come to the office, pick up the list, and we'll deal with those things at that time. We can't take phone calls while we're in the truck and moving. Number one, it's a $5,000 fine if an officer catches you in a CDL vehicle on the phone. And number two, it's distracting, and that's even worse. That being said, thank you for your patience with us, and we're going to keep doing our best to get things done for you.
Thank you, Jay.
You're welcome.
My name is Sharon Jacobson, 540 Country Lane. I don't want to talk about what's happened in the past here. My issue is the 30% tax increase, if that happens. Last year, my taxes were $4,200. A 30% tax increase would bring them up to $5,600. Now, my Social Security is $1,400. So with all of my set fees and this additional, that doesn't leave a lot. Heaven forbid I need glasses or hearing aid. I have to budget for health insurance, car registration, car maintenance. And so this tax increase would amount to, it would bring it up to $470 a month, which for me would be almost prohibitive. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else that would like to speak? I'm going to offer one more time. Okay.
I will say I did receive a letter from Becky Borkart that I did distribute to all board members. That will be included with the meeting.
All right, we're going to close this portion of the agenda here. Public comment, move on. Approval of the consent agenda. Anybody want to help me on this one here?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Anything to discuss? Issues, concerns, questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay, reports. I have 3 items here. Number 1, I got a feeling you're going to be talking more about this one, Lisa. The election went off very well. We had a poll watcher. Is that what they call them?
Observer.
Observer. And I asked some folks about this, and so I was worried that we might have concerns, but we didn't. So it was nice. Well done. Number 2, I attended the library craft sale out at high school. What was this? 2 weeks from this coming Saturday, and I ended up buying candy. There was a lot of nice items there, but I just didn't need any, and you know, it's probably the place to go if you know you're going to have a baby shower or something like that, because they have those and just all kinds of bird feeders and candles and Christmas decorations. But it was very well done. And then lastly, the party that Jay was referring to, I have attempted to call them. Now, I had a real busy weekend. I did call on Friday, but then I was gone Saturday, Sunday, and I called again today. So I'm going to try to get together with this individual and just see what their concerns were. I think we were, or didn't we get this? Didn't the board get it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just following up on it. So those are my 3 items. Okay, moving on. Lisa?
Obviously, the election has taken up a majority of my time. We did have 95% turnout in the village. We had 1,171 voters. 510 were early, either absentee or early voting, in-person voting. We did have a poll watcher observer here from beginning of the day till the end. She had nothing but positive things to say, was very impressed with the staff that we had working together. It was busy, nonstop, all day. Numerous times during the day, people were lined up out the door. We did have our 3 Badger books, which worked very well, helped expedite. I hate to say I'm already working on the next election. Before this one is closed out, we have to have notices to the county because papers will be available in December for the April election. So starting work on the next election. The notice has gone out for the vacant position. I did receive my first application late today. So that is out and posted. Working on the loan information is in the packet, will be later in the agenda. Working on a lot of transition things. I have to give a lot of kudos to Vicki and Judy in the office for stepping up and helping with current activities as well as all the election activities. So it's been a very busy couple weeks.
Okay. Questions for Lisa? Go ahead.
Do you want to mention anything about the
Oh, yes.
sewer cleaning? That's
And the guys can,
No,
they're gone. We are starting some sewer cleaning and scoping, so you'll see some trucks around town and may hear as they're cleaning sewer lines. So that started today in the village.
Thank you.
Thank you for reminding me.
Jay mentioned when he came up with his comments something about a water leak.
There was a water main break. It was on the property owner's side of the line, so it will be their responsibility, but they were called in over the weekend. We call in Fox to come in to determine what's wrong before we know if it's ours or the property owners. It was the property owners. They're currently working on that. I believe it's been patched. We will have to patch the sidewalk and street and so forth, but it has been taken care of.
Was this a copper line? It wouldn't have been a lead, because I don't think we have too much in the way of
No,
lead
it
left.
was not a lead line. I don't know the exact material, but yeah.
All right. It's just
And
unusual to get it now.
it is the line going from the shut-off to the property. It is not our line.
Okay. All right. Okay, anything else? Okay, let's move right into the treasurer's report and bills. You want to take,
First run was $24,979.77. Second run was $4,450.68 for a total of $29,430.45.
okay.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills and set them out.
All right, got a motion, a second. Discussion, concerns, issues? Anything? I have two, Lisa. And one kind of scares me because it's water leaking from the boiler. There was a check
Oh.
in here for
Oh, yeah,
$923.
I was going to ask you about that too. Thanks for bringing
Yeah.
that up.
It was the boiler here in the Amundsen Center.
Okay,
There was a leak that we had to call 1901 in, and
all right. But
they
this is
took care of
minor.
it.
This is not like it's portending a boiler replacement.
no, yeah,
Okay, all right.
that was taken care of.
Okay. My other one, and maybe it's because there's multiple subscriptions, Wisconsin State Journal, $957.
If I believe that would be the
Library
library's,
expense.
it's, if you look, it's under account 150.
Yep.
So that's the
Yeah.
library's.
Oh,
Bills.
okay.
That's
So it's not just for one subscription. I mean, it must be,
It,
they can't,
it's a library bill.
but at my personal, I have the Wisconsin State Journal. I get it every day. It doesn't cost that.
The bill is going to be in the
All right.
folder, but that is a library bill. That is not a village bill.
Okay. All right. Maybe you could follow up. I don't know. You know, when you meet with the library.
Hand me the bill book. Let me look at it. See if I can find it.
I mean, I'm trying to think what my subscription, and then you,
Trying to
they
think if
give you
that
a
was
number,
enough
it's like
for
$500,
surrounded
and then you call up and you say, well, that's not what I was paying last year. And so then they kind of dink around with you, and they're on
It's
the
going to be in
phone
the,
for about 20 minutes.
that's,
And then they
yeah,
come
here, I
back,
can look
and
quick.
they look at it and they say, all right, well, it's
Can find it quicker than us.
$360. So that's why it just seemed, for a single subscription,
Wisconsin State Journal, 52 weeks, Monday through Saturday, $957.
Monthly or yearly?
52 weeks
So year, for the year.
for the year,
The entire year?
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you.
Mhm.
$18 a week? $3 a paper?
It's a library charge.
$3 a paper?
So if you have an issue with it, we can bring it up with library board.
Yeah.
And I'm on the library board. We'll take a look at the
Yeah.
library board tomorrow. The library board meets, so they can take a look at that.
thank you.
The library board handles their budget separately, so.
By
that would
state
be-
statute,
yeah.
we pay the bills, but they have their own budget, and
Yep.
Okay. Those were my two questions. Anybody else have anything? All right. Let's have a roll call on this.
we have to.
I know, but I like.
Franklin, Blackwood,
Yes.
Hollenbeck,
Yes.
Krakow,
Yes.
Breinig,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. All right. Anything else on our reports? And you were swamped with the election, so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll move on. Okay. We're going to get into some new business now, and the first thing up are well, we've got a quick trip liquor license.
Oh, I'm taking it 2 steps backwards. Brian, did you want to give a quick update on the Economic Development Committee from the consent agenda? Or
I thought
No.
you guys just passed it with the thing, but
I
I
put
can
in
make
the-
a note. I thought, you know, the meeting went really well. We had a great presentation from UW Whitewater. They want to come in and work with communities to help set up a new business that might be there where there wasn't business. And one of the business community members stepped up and is willing to work with them, and so they're going to be getting that program going. So, and it's a great way to bring the community together to get community ideas about what a new business would be. They work with the students to do scoring on that, and like I said, it was a really great program they introduced for that.
So, and I did include their information in the packet.
Mhm.
So,
Correct. Yep.
yeah.
And that does not, we're not looking at it spending any money on this.
No, we agreed with the committee that with the current budget, and again, another member of the committee
The collaborative will be
took
taking
up
the lead
that
on
program, so we won't be on the hook for any money for that. So.
Okay,
We just get the benefits.
all right, thank you. Yeah, okay, now we can get into the quick trips, liquor and cigarette licensing. Start, Lisa, is there
Yep.
anything we need to be aware of?
The liquor license is just transferring from one location to the other. The last that I heard was yesterday. They are looking December 5th of opening at the new location. So this is transferring the license from the one location to the other.
I'll make a motion to approve the Quick Trip liquor license in their new location.
I'll second.
Okay,
Chad looked at all these?
Mm-hmm.
all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then do they turn their old license in then? Because it's an address change, but it's still,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, and then we have in here a cigarette, tobacco, and a vaping license.
Yep, so the same, just they have to apply for the new one at the new address.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the Quick Trip cigarette license.
all right. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right. Now we're going to go on to the vacant village board seat. We have one board member, but he's out, so he would normally be here, and that would put us at, that's with Bill, or with,
Chuck.
not Bill, Chuck, at 6, and then we just had a resignation. So,
Yep. So in the packet, I did do a little memo. We have two options. We can post it and fill it at our December meeting. Like I said, at this point, anybody who wants to run, that seat will be up in April. So anybody does have to take out papers in December to run for that position. So the board can fill it, and the person could take out the papers and do it. Or we can leave it vacant and fill it at the April election. So that's a board decision.
okay. Thoughts?
I'll make a motion that we leave the board seat vacant and that we fill it as part of the April election.
All right.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion, a second discussion.
What's your thought process on that?
It's, I just don't know what the pool of candidates going to be. It's the end of the year, and we've got an awful lot going on, and getting somebody else up to speed to understand. I mean, I think Brian could probably attest to the, getting up to speed on what we've got going, and then knowing that, if they wanted to remain on the board past April, they'd have to reapply again. I don't know. I just figure it's been difficult enough on this board that maybe leaving this seat vacant for the 4 months isn't the worst idea.
I was thinking the same. There's a lot of committee assignment shuffling already. There'd be more committee assignment shuffling, so some stability for a little bit would be good.
That's a good point.
I would like to see it filled. I think anytime we can get that community input, I think is good. I totally understand your points of, it's end of the year and it's literally a fire hose of activity. But I think if we have individuals who want to step in and, I can't even say step in, dive in head first, I think they should have that opportunity.
Okay, Chris?
I think we gave there was somebody that, I think it was Megan, that came in along with you, Brian, and I think we offered it up, but it didn't work out with their schedule or whatever the case is. I can see both sides, really. I mean, if there's ample applicants that want to come in and be part of the solution, I'm always for that. There's a lot of naysayers out in the community, so maybe we need a fresh mind up here. So, but it is going to be almost to the detriment of that person, because no sooner will they get their feet wet that they're going to have to run again in April. And they're going to have to go through the signatures, and they're going to have to
file their papers by January.
The first Tuesday in January.
The first Tuesday in January? Okay.
It's almost one of those where you want to set them up for success by saying, okay, well, we're going to leave this vacant for now, but come December, file your papers, get your signatures, and then get on the ballot for the April election. So that way you can do a full term. It's not basically a couple month term. So I think.
But you're assuming that.
I'm sorry, we can't have comment from the. We can't have comment from the audience. That was for during public speaking. Sorry.
Okay. Chris and I understand where you're at, and I also understand where Paula is at. I just look at it as it's an awful lot between the fire and EMS and then our budget, and we're going to be going into that more as we go on. Is that fair to anybody to come in? Now, if you have interest, I'm going to vote for holding it off. But if somebody has interest and they would like to be to have their voice heard, please get a hold of us. Please get a hold of me. We can always visit this.
Have her get a hold of Lisa.
Well, okay. Get a hold of Lisa, and we can bring this back around. But right now, it just seems to be grossly unfair, because you're going to have to get into it so much.
I think here's the thing. If someone is really interested enough, because there are going to be because Chuck has already said he's not running the next one, so we know there are going to be 2 open seats in the next election. So if somebody comes in and they get the packets from Lisa when that becomes available, and they get their signatures and they're ready to go, I mean, we can change our mind and say, hey, maybe we should see if, maybe we should, if like say 2 people do it, 2 new people, let's interview them and maybe bring one of them in early.
I think where my mind is on this is, I've been on this board long enough to see people get burnt out really quick. Really smart, community-minded folks that want to be involved, but because of the fire hose effect that sometimes actions take on the board, they just get overwhelmed because they're juggling. They're juggling their families, their kids, they're juggling jobs, part-time jobs, this, that, whatever, education, school, whatever the case is. And I don't think it sets people up for success by giving them that, that short run of what to expect, and then come April, they have to do it all over again. So I don't want to see people get burnt out if they take the papers out in April and they run the election, they win the election. As a board, we can kind of coach them, we can kind of help them along by putting them on different committees to kind of bring them up, to learn from our mistakes and not overwhelm them with, you know, this committee or that committee. We can kind of slowly bring them up and kind of set them up for success.
I think
right?
almost every one of us started on the licensing committee,
Yeah.
because that's a nice,
That's a nice
good
one.
committee
Yeah.
to get your feet wet on.
Oh, yeah. And then it steps over
But
from
to
there.
be honest with you, this person, whoever it may be, if they were to come in tomorrow, they'd be right in the middle of things. I mean, we're gonna speak to where Bill's stepping down from, and a lot of those committees they're gonna have to step into. So, again, I'm trying to take an empathetic look at this instead of just throwing him into the fire.
Okay, any other comments? Lisa, can you repeat the motion?
The motion was to leave the seat vacant until the April election, to fill in the April election.
All right, all those in favor of leaving the seat vacant until it is filled through the election process in April, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Me.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. Now we move on, committee assignments.
I think it's important, though, to put out to the public that we are going to have 2 open slots.
Yeah.
So, you know, while you have the camera going, you know, this is the time to get a plug for whoever's interested. Please get with Lisa and get your signature sheets as of when? December
1st, they can be pulled.
December 1st, and please, I think you need 25 signatures in Cambridge. It's always helpful to get a few more, and get those in as soon as possible so we can get you on the ballot.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Let's move on, committee assignments that Bill had.
So we don't have to fill Board of Review.
Nope, that will not be meeting again. Personnel Committee, Police and Fire and Joint Law Enforcement, or one and the same. The Cable Committee meets very rarely. The Jefferson County Economic Development Committee, we had a representative from the committee who was our member on there who had to step down. He was leaving the community, and Tammy had been our alternate there. And Dane County Cities and Villages, it's just the alternate position.
So that one could wait till April.
That can wait until
Okay.
April as well, so.
I'd be willing to take the Cable Committee.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to have Kristen Blackwood chair personnel and put Mark McNally in personnel.
I'll second.
If that works with your schedule.
You know, I go to a lot of these meetings.
Yeah. Personnel isn't a once a month. It's kind of as scheduled,
Yeah.
as needed. So
All right. Okay.
we got a motion.
Got a motion and a second for McNally. Kristen here on personnel. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we got that one.
I didn't even ask, are you okay with being chair? Sorry about that.
Okay, all right. And we've got,
Wait for this next one.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I've got a motion.
yeah.
I've got a motion for the Police and Fire and the Joint Law Enforcement Committee that we have Mark McNally do both of those.
Well,
Because he goes to them anyway.
go to-
He's on them already, though.
Oh,
well,
which one's he
Police
on?
and Fire.
He's on Police and Fire?
He's
Yeah.
All right,
on the
damn it.
Police and Fire, but not the joint
All
law.
right, so then, Police,
And the Police and Fire
Yeah.
are not going to be meeting, I don't.
oh, so we probably
Anymore.
don't need that one?
No.
Or we can
No.
go two is still a quorum,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I'll
okay.
take police and fire.
So then,
Yeah.
so then the joint law enforcement committee.
I'll take police and fire.
Oh, you'll take Chris? Chris will take police and fire. he said.
Okay.
Great.
I like
Right.
the record
And-
to reflect, I'm looking forward to working with you, Chad. And,
Now you can ask your questions.
yeah,
Did we have
direct,
a
yeah.
second for that?
Did we have a second for,
I'll
so,
second.
for Mark on joint and Chris on police?
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. What else do we have left? Jefferson County.
So,
Well, I'll make a motion to have Paula take Bill Chris' position on cable.
thank you.
No.
Yeah,
I'll
okay.
second. Okay, great.
All right, okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
I have a question on Jefferson County Economic
Yeah.
Development Committee. Are the meetings virtual?
I believe they still are. You have your choice, virtual or in person.
And how often do they meet?
Usually they meet once a month, early in the morning. So I don't know, as chair of the committee, if you'd be interested, and if we had an alternate, if you weren't available.
For Jefferson County
Yeah.
Economic? Yeah, I
They
don't
meet
know.
once
do
a
you-
month early in the morning.
Yeah,
And you probably could call into it?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that would make a difference for you?
I can take that.
You
I
would?
can make
Okay.
it work.
Cool, all right.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to have Brian assigned to the Jefferson County Economic Development Committee.
Second. All those in favor?
Do we need to do an alternate?
if we want, I can be an alternate. I had been on it before Tammy took over the
Okay.
committee.
Okay.
There was,
And with Lisa
yeah.
as the alternate.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right,
Amended my
Thank you,
motion.
Lisa.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. All
I
right,
think that does all of them.
yes.
Yep.
Counties, cities,
We're going to
and
wait
villages.
until April.
That's the
Yeah,
alternate.
that's just an alternate
yeah.
position, so.
All right, easy day.
Okay. All right.
Moving on.
Now let's move
Oh,
on.
wait, maybe we should stay on that one a little longer.
Unfinished business, Audit and Finance Committee. Got a couple of items here. Is this on you, Lisa, or is this going to be Paula?
I'm going to start with the item, which is just, again, for the boards and for the community's purposes, just once again going through what our process has been in order to determine that what we felt was the best decision for borrowing $300,000. It wasn't taken lightly. I mean, we put a lot of thought into this. The other thing to keep in mind is that not all of us have been here for all of the last 5 years, and so you know, we can't really necessarily talk to or be held accountable for what boards before us have done, and so we have to do with the information that is in front of us today and what we can do with that information. So what happened is Mark, Chris, I, and staff, and it was both Tammy and Lisa, we had the budget proposal, and we went, I mean, you can see my notes on it, we went line by line through every single item. Some of the items had to be, so we started out with a $252 deficit. $252,000 deficit.
Yeah.
We started out with. And during the review, we noted that there were 5 items that needed to be increased because either they had a 0 value or a lower value than what they should have been at. As we went through that, we found 21 items that we either reduced or eliminated. And there was a lot of good discussion along the way. When we talked about items in there being, you know, people would question an item and it's like, well, that's a pass-through, meaning like the building permits. That's basically a pass-through. So the person who we hired to do the building inspections, the dollar amount for him is pretty much, or for them, is pretty much equal to the dollar amount we see it as revenues coming in for building permits and things like that. So we went through and we talked about all of those items. The end result with adding the 5 items that need to be added, eliminating 21 items or reducing them, the end result was we had to add another $24,000 to the budget. So that brings us to a $276,000 shortfall. And we talked about different ways to try and make up those dollars. And making up those dollars is going to be, the only way we can make up those dollars is if we remove services. And it would be services like cutting the senior services, taking the library down. Instead of just having $10,000 less than what they asked for, it would be $20,000 less than they asked for. It would be
Bigger minimum.
bigger, it would be reducing staff.
Yeah, that's
So, and, I mean,
contracted services.
right, contracted services, yeah, we talked about that. Reducing the things that if we reduce staff, then the public works isn't going to be able to do all the things they're doing now. Then we might not be able to do leaf pickup at all. We might not be able to do brush pickup because it's tough to do if we only have 2 people on staff. So, and in reviewing all of these items, then on the other side, what we looked at is that we know in 2026 that we're going to have about a $220,000 to $225,000 more in our general fund because the developers agreement for the winery is going to be satisfied. So we know that this will have some incremental increase in revenue from the Scott Farm area as well. And we are anticipating, hopefully, having some kind of a reduction in EMS and fire costs in 2026. So we felt that a one-time $300,000 loan was the best solution for the village so that we wouldn't have to cut services that people in the village have come to rely on. What this results in, though, it isn't a 30% increase in your taxes.
That's the important part. Let's talk numbers.
So Lisa got together with Ehlers, who's our financial advisors, and Ehlers,
The budget notice says it went in the paper. Where do I have it? It's roughly an 18% increase that is levied. Taking into account, it doesn't mean an 18% increase for all residents. The levy limit, the mill rate worksheet all is based on equalized value. The home values, if there's more homes with the new subdivisions, that is spread around more people. So obviously we don't have the mill rate yet, but the mill rate could be lower because there's more properties that it's spread throughout.
so we're looking at 18%, but that 18% is only for the village portion of your tax bill.
Only the village portion
So
of the
when you
tax
look at
bill
your tax bill, at least half of it, more than half, is
the schools.
the schools, whether it's MATC or our schools in our school district. That's over half of it. So when we're looking at that, and again, we're all subject to the same increase as everyone else. So I mean, it's not an easy decision, but I just. And quite frankly, we talked about cutting things, and when we looked at the dollar amounts of cutting, if we cut all of those things I named, we'd still be about $150,000 still
have to go out for a loan.
too short. So we'd still have to go out for a loan. So
I think it's important to note that this is not in perpetuity, right?
Correct. It's a 1 year only. So maybe I need to add on to that. So one of the things that I'm going to do as head of audit and finance is starting right away in January. I'm going to start working with the staff, and I'm going to pull together what are all of the contracts we have and get a better understanding of where we are on all of our contracts, what we have, what we're spending on all of those, et cetera. And then kind of making sure we're working through and looking where there might be additional areas that we can save. And quite frankly, it might come in the middle of, when we thought we were only not going to fill the public works position, we thought maybe we'd fill it in a May time frame. We might come in May and say, you know what, we can't afford to fill that position, so it's going to have to remain empty through the end of the year. So those are things that we're going to stay on top of and take a look at as we go through 2025 so that we don't have to have a repeat of this in 2026.
Sir, you had a question,
Nope.
not a comment, but if there's a question.
No,
Well,
Mark, we cannot take comments from this is not a back and forth.
It's not a comment, it's a question.
It's not a question. I'm sorry, we can't do that.
You also can't reply to emails, so when can he communicate with you?
In public, sorry, you had your chances to speak at your public comment, and it's by that is how the meeting needs to be run.
You had a budget to call too.
And you didn't.
I do.
Sir, can you give me the question? I'll take the question. I'm not sure I can answer it, but I'll take it. So go
Mark,
ahead.
Mark, you can't
But
do
I
that.
can. I'm gonna exercise.
My question is, have all state and statutes been followed as far as the increase with this?
Yes, it has.
Yes.
Absolutely,
And
100%.
I was just going to make a comment. I recently, with Tammy leaving, sat in on an Ellers webinar on the levy limit worksheet. They actually had a whole section on these interim 1-year short-term loans because municipalities across the state are in the same situation we are. Ellers has provided us all the information on how to do it, the timing and so forth. It is a common occurrence throughout the state that is legal borrowing that municipalities can do.
Okay. So it's all
And
been
many
done.
have to.
Right.
All been done in
We
accordance
have
with
neighboring
state statutes.
communities who have been doing it for years.
All right.
And-
Paul, I
yeah.
got a question. So it sounds like that the Audit and Finance Committee is going to then look at like an action plan, right? Of
How we can make sure we're not doing this in 2026.
how we can make sure we're looking towards a balanced budget. And we may need to make decisions on survey, and those have impacts. We may not do it, but we may need to get to that point based on where we're at financially. So at least there's not like an emergency, you know what I mean? Like right now we're at where we're at, right? And so,
Correct.
okay. All right. Fair.
And one other thing that I want to bring up that has been we did in 2018. 2018 was the referendum?
2019.
2019. In 2019, we did do a referendum. That referendum was 100% legal. It was 100% in compliance with all of the statutes that were required for how we stated the referendum. It was in perpetuity, and it stated that in the referendum question, so that was absolutely 100% legal. And those dollars, which amounts to, in perpetuity, it was $95,000 extra a year, that is included in all of these financials as well.
And that is automatically entered into our levy limit worksheet with
Yep.
the state, so it's part of the levy limit
It's a-
worksheet.
Yeah, it's a separate line item on the levy limit worksheet. So
And that was 2019, right?
2019 is when we had the referendum, correct. And I mean, if in the first part of the first couple months of the year, it doesn't look like there's a way that we would ever be able to balance our budget, maybe we go up for another referendum.
And that was my question is, Paula, what if we have a situation where first of all, there's going to be a cost to a referendum question, right?
Depending on if it's on a regularly scheduled election, we don't incur extra costs. If
Okay.
you're doing a separate election for a referendum or something, but the last time it was on an April election,
So there's
there's cost if you're
Yeah.
dealing with
right.
your financial advisors and so forth, but not for the election itself.
So I guess the scenario in my mind when I was thinking this over, first of all, it was told to us in audit and finance right from the get-go from our treasurer at the time, hey, maybe the best way forward on this is just to take out a $250,000 loan. But we go through every line item because that's what we do every year to see where we can cut. Is there room to cut on salt? Is there room to cut here, there, everywhere? But then there's quite a bit of influx back from our constituents saying, you know, why 30%, 30%, 30%'s thrown out there when in fact it's 18%. But there's obviously a anger that's out there within the constituents. So what if there's a scenario where we cut the budget to the extent we need to cut it, and then the citizenry, the constituents can decide in April through a referendum whether or not they want to give us the $300,000.
Who do you want to fire?
Well, there'd be some cuts in the library.
Well, the library, we can only cut another $10,000 from the library.
Right.
So that's $10,000. So now we're down to $290,000. Where are the other cuts coming from?
Basically, we would have essentially personnel, community programs, public safety.
We would,
And even if
senior
we-
meals would be gone.
Right.
And
That's what I'm saying.
okay, but that's $25,000.
Right.
So now we've still got another 200.
No, I know, and I'm just kind of
Right.
just
Yeah.
categorizing.
No,
These are the places
exactly, but-
that this is how this would get cut.
And I'm trying to explain, yes, absolutely. We can go through this exercise and talk about all these places where we can cut, and we're still not going to hit the $300,000 mark.
I mean, it would be, we would have,
But at the end of the day, the citizenry would have the ability to vote on a referendum of, maybe in that time frame between now and April, they would see that services that we provide are just not going to be able to be provided. And that may be a swaying moment where they decide, you know what, for this one time, $300,000 is the way we need to vote on this. But we leave it up to the constituents to decide that.
But we can't do that, because if we're cutting the budget,
Mm-hmm.
we have to cut it as of January 1st. So all those services are gone for the year.
can, if we do a referendum and it would go through, how do we put that back into the budget?
How would that work,
You
Lisa?
can't for next year.
We can't for 2025.
That is the timing why it has to be done now.
Okay.
For 2026.
So the process is next meeting, we would approve a loan before we approve the budget. Then it is part of your levy limit worksheet. If anything is approved after we do our budget, we're not going to see it on our levy limit worksheet and in the state calculations until 2026.
So those funds would not apply until 2026.
In our levy limit worksheet. Yeah.
So before we approve the budget, there's a public hearing, correct?
Yes. Correct. There is a public
So
hearing.
the constituents could voice their opinion during the public hearing, or what would the results of that be? Is there like petitions, or what can constituents do during a public hearing? Just
They can share their concerns. It's up to the board to approve a budget at our next meeting after the public hearing. If we are doing the loan has to be approved can be approved on the same agenda, but prior to approving the budget.
And the current budget and how we're estimating the dollars for the current budget is included in this week's packet. So if anyone wanted to see what that was, so then they could come to the public hearing and recommend the items that they would like to see us cut. If they don't want us to take this loan, what items would they like us to see us cut? They could go in and they could do this exercise themselves.
100%. I think it's understanding, for me, it's understanding what the community believes are acceptable cuts. That's, I think, what maybe for one person might not be for others, you know, and I think that's for me, that's what I need to understand is what, when we talk about these cuts, when we talk about personnel, we talk about public works, we talk about community programs, we talk about public safety. Public safety is a humongous discussion, which we're hopefully going to be making headway in that. But I think for me, it's understanding the public's you know, what's acceptable to them.
I mean,
And they will have a forum to do that.
Yep. It's important to remember that half of our budget is public safety,
I know.
which is fire, police, and EMS. Now, by state statute, we don't have to provide EMS services.
Right.
No.
And that would save us $200,000 a year.
At least.
But somehow I don't think that's going to be acceptable to our constituents.
Right. No, I agree with you.
So,
I agree with you. I think,
Yeah, we have to provide fire
they have to provide
for our
fire
ordinance.
for our ordinance, yes.
And statute.
State
And state
statute. I
state
mean.
statute.
Yep.
So,
And we, at this time, we don't even really know what the fire and EMS, we're using the old numbers.
Yep.
So we don't
As
know
an
where,
estimate. Yep.
yeah, that could go up. I will say this, for the Finance Committee, I serve on it, and Paula and Chris, they have gone through it. I mean, they have gone through every single item. Chris mentioned salt. I mean, we were looking at flowers. Garland. It just goes on. Roads. How often do we have the money to go and to repave these roads? Because they aren't going to last forever. You know, it just goes on. And I think our budget is what, 6 pages long, something like that?
Yeah.
That's just
I
the
have it right here.
100 fund.
Yes.
this is where we made the cuts, and then no sooner we make some headway on the cuts than we'd say, well, why is this zeroed out right here? Oh, well, that's a $50,000. That's what we had to pay last year, is $50,000 on this. So it was exercise in futility. But I understand what a lot of constituents are frustrated with is they don't want any extra taxation without their representation, right? That's why we are America. That's why we're in this situation, right? So they want to be able to have a vote on it. But to take that a step further is maybe not you guys, maybe not the folks out in the audience, but the folks in Cambridge voted us to sit up here to make these tough decisions. You know, that's why we're called trustees, so you impart upon us your trust. So we have to make those tough decisions on, okay, well, it's going to be a tough one to cut senior meals because for some folks in this community, that's their only way of getting any kind of social interaction or anything. It's going to be tough to cut all our part-time help that's here because, to be honest with you, the part-time help now is full-time help because of shortages. So, you know, we go through that exercise, like I said, exercise in futility, and then it's, okay, well, what would be the best way forward for Cambridge? And, you know, that's why we came to the vote last time. It did not go well with one of our former board members. I wish he was there I wish he was there when we went through each line item painstakingly for 3 hours.
And we
She
were
was
going to
here.
have,
Yeah.
we were going to have a meeting just for him.
Yeah.
So the meeting that we were going to have on Monday, Bill told us which day he was available, and we were going to go over line by line by line with Bill to see if any of his suggestions could make a difference.
He had some great suggestions, and we wanted to make sure that he was heard, and unfortunately it went in another direction, but it doesn't mean that we still don't take a look at those suggestions throughout the year. And I think that's what you were pointing out, Paul, is staying on top of those contracts that are out there and taking another look at our professional services that are provided. I'll be honest, we got kicked pretty good with some lawyer fees out there, you know, not only with fire and EMS, but the solar project. That's $100 grand right off the top.
Yep.
Because we made a stand against it, and you know, we provided the legal resources to fight that fight. Now, you know, again, we can't sort of cry over spilt milk. That's what's been done. That's what past board members have decided to do, and we have to come up with a solution. And I think I can understand folks that would want to see a referendum, but I also understand that, you know, we have to make that tough call. And I don't like it. What is your statement, Kristen? You always say the worst or
Least worst option?
least worst option. So. But
I think for me particularly, it's wrapping my head around that this problem didn't get created overnight. It is not going to be solved overnight, and we have to
own it.
We have to own it. We have to, and you know, we can talk about past decisions and things like that. Unfortunately, it's really, really, really easy to look at things in the rearview mirror and understand them. I think for me personally, it's how do we learn from that? How do we fix that? And how do we do better than that?
I think what's really important as well is to understand what the limitations of the levy limit is. I mean, it doesn't keep up with inflation.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, no.
So
It doesn't.
So every year, while costs are going up for everybody else, and all of those vendors put those costs to us, we cannot raise taxes to stay even with that inflation.
No.
Because of the levy limit, which is why not just us, but so many other small communities like us are stuck with having to take out short-term loans. But our goal would be that this is a one-time thing, that we do not do short-term loans year after year after year. And for me, if we did a referendum, I wouldn't see wanting to do a referendum for just 1 year. If I do a referendum, it's like, okay, what is a dollar amount that is going to help us in perpetuity, like we did our last referendum, that has been tremendous, gave us tremendous help. And we originally asked for that referendum increase because of the increases in fire and EMS. But since that time, fire and EMS has gone up another $100,000. Our cost.
And we're already looking at, if we go with the proposed budget that they're putting forth, it's another 30%.
Right.
37, thank you. Which.
So that's part of the reason why we're looking at a $300,000 loan and not just a $276,000 loan, which is what we know we're short on. Because if we have to go out for a loan, going out for something that has a little buffer in case, because we don't really know where fire and EMS is going to fall.
I know that in this, I'm going to change the subject, but it's still on budget. I go out and I talk to people, and I've had people ask me, why do we need to have another well? You know, you had the second well. I mean, why go through and have a third well? That thing's pretty expensive, isn't it, Mark? And when we first looked at
The DNR.
oh yeah, it was the DNR. I mean,
Number one.
they're the ones that said it.
We don't have a well number.
We don't have well number.
So we
one.
only
Well
have,
number 1 was decommissioned.
yeah,
Yeah.
decommission.
So we have well number 2,
And
and
3.
we didn't have redundancy.
Right.
That's why we needed
Right.
Well
three.
number
Right.
3.
Right,
Yep.
but that well, when we first looked at that, and this was right before COVID, I think.
No, it was
No.
first looked at 20
Way-
years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
a long time
It
ago.
was not first looked
Okay.
at.
That was my first time on the board,
All right.
Yeah.
before I took time off.
But when we looked at that, that well now is coming in, we added a little bit to that for something with fluoride, I thought, some equipment.
That's always been, it is the same as what is equipped at well number 2.
Right,
So
because we
both
didn't
will
want to
be-
have a.
It's nothing new.
Right,
Um,
but that, to do that well, we had to finance, what, 5.4 million? And when we had a number right before COVID, we didn't do anything, but then it was like 2.4 million. So the prices had gone up so much, and we were told, we didn't have a choice on this. The state of Wisconsin said, you will have that third well, because this had been kicked down the path again and again and again. And finally, the state was like, you're not going to kick it down anymore, and you're going to have to go ahead with that well. And that's one of the reasons why your water and your sewer bills are high, and I understand it.
It's one of the reasons I had to sell a car wash.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. That
you
would
know,
make sense.
we're not ignorant to the asks that we have. Now, whether or not it makes sense right now to go through with a referendum, boy, that's a full topic. I don't know.
But again, a referendum is not going to impact 2025. A referendum is going to impact 2026. So for 2025, it's a $300,000 loan
To cover operational
to
expenses.
cover operational expenses, for this one-time loan to cover these operational expenses. Or I'll be looking to the personnel committee to
The red
recommend who
pen,
we
yeah.
fire.
Yeah.
The red pen will be coming out.
I have a question for the board. Scott Farms tax base, what is the projected tax base that Scott Farms is actually going to produce for 2025 and 26?
Okay,
25 should
we don't have those
Yeah.
numbers, so let's not speculate.
Yeah.
I pretty much know what it is.
And
we don't have-
projecting on that to solve
Okay,
the 26
stop.
problem.
We cannot take questions or comments from the audience.
I asked the
We
question
just-
and you deferred the questions. I'm going to come back at you.
We just cannot answer. You guys can be as pissed at us as you want. You can't have a back and forth in
Can I make
a
an appointment
meeting.
to come see Lisa when those
I-
are available?
What I can do is give a brief explanation, a very simplified explanation. New construction, our levy limits, we're able to increase levy limits by small amounts due to net new construction. So $1 million neighborhood is not raising $1 million per se. It's net new construction. Those services, it's a small amount in the levy, and it's all part of a levy limit worksheet. So we won't know until we have net new construction numbers, until we know all the other blanks and levy limit worksheets. So it's hard to give a definitive answer until you know all those blanks.
And it's what, empty lots are taxed differently than partial builds and are
And
taxed differently than full
everything is-
builds, right?
And the thing that makes a difference is our levy is set, we get a small increase with net new construction, but you have more homeowners, more equalized value that is paying that set amount. So your mill rate is what's going to fluctuate. So
Because it's spread out.
because it's spread out among more people. So the mill rate can go down, so you're not paying as much per thousand as you would have before there was construction. So all these things work together to give you the final. Once you do your levy limit worksheet, the mill rate worksheet can't be done until a budget is passed. So we don't have those numbers. Once the budget's passed, we can work on the mill rate worksheet, and then we know what taxes are. So, 30% wasn't accurate, but even if we're levying more, it doesn't mean the mill rate is more, that you're paying more. It can, it all fluctuates.
Understood.
So,
To say Scott Farms is going to take care of the problem would be an understatement.
I didn't say that.
no.
It's been referenced multiple times.
What I said is, we will have an incremental increase from Scott Farms. Incremental to me isn't a huge one, but it will be an increase. That's what I said.
You have the information on Scott Farms. Somebody wanted to come up there, that whole development, don't you, as far as what that was approved at?
Not dollar-wise.
I thought we had $1 on
We
that.
don't know what homes are going to be built
I
there
know.
before
Yeah.
they're built.
Okay.
And the assessed value, too, is based on a home on, or a property on January 1st.
Right.
So if it's a
Vacant
vacant lot on January 1st, but they're living in it by the end of the year, that first tax year is still taxed on a vacant lot. If a home is partially built, the assessor figures out at what percentage, and, so everything assessment-wise is based on a property on January 1st.
Okay.
So
In
the
full.
taxes for January, so the taxes that are coming up are based on what was on the property on January 1st of this year.
Of 2024.
And those are the tax bills that will go out in December, which is the money that we will be using to pay for 2025. Okay.
And if we went out for a referendum, 2025 would be bare bones at the best. When it comes to any kind of services, I mean, we would have to find a way.
So the purpose of this item on the agenda was to, again, go through what the process is that we went through. I mean, if any individuals have questions about this, I'm happy to talk to them about it. I will no longer, I'm just letting you guys know, I will no longer be engaging on Facebook, because I think I was trying to provide some clarity on Facebook, and I felt very dumped upon, and so I won't ever do that again.
Well, I understand that. I was on Facebook, and then my account was hacked, and I became, believe it or not, I was a crypto currency. Yeah. And
Awesome.
I don't even know what this stuff is, Bitcoin. And so people were out there, and again, if you get hacked, you got to take it down, because they were about ready to go ahead and buy Bitcoin. It turns out it wasn't really a bad idea, but it was at the time. So I get the Facebook is not the most effective tool. What do we want to do? I mean, do we have
And there's
it?
nothing we need to do about this section of it, was just a conversation.
All right.
We still have, so what now, next steps? Today, what we need to do is, if we do want to take out a loan, or if we want to go that next step to say, yes, we probably want to take out the loan.
We already voted on it.
What you voted on was to
Really to go and
Look at the
investigate.
rates.
taking
So
out
I
a
got the 3
$300,000
quotes
loan.
from 3 local banks.
Yes.
Right.
If we pick one of them today, they will then provide us the paperwork, the resolution to pass at our next meeting, like I said, before a budget is passed. So that was to say, yes, go out, get this information. Here are the 3 quotes from the 3 local banks. I'll All of them are based on a 1-year, 1-day loan. No prepayment penalty. The intent is once taxes are collected, it would be paid off. So it's a very short-term,
So the
close
amount,
in
yeah.
December, and we'd be paying it off in February.
So the amount of interest we'd be paying on would be very minimal.
Yeah.
I saw one of quotes had over $1,000 in administrative fees, though,
1,800.
I
or
think
1,800.
So the one that had the lowest interest rate was Badger Bank.
Badger Bank
So
that we've worked with.
I
in
would
the
go with
past.
Badger Bank because we've worked with them really successfully in the past as well.
Yeah. Bank of Deerfield, we'd need to open an account there, which we don't currently have. Bank First is,
I'd like to know, though, if Badger would incur those same administrative fees.
That's a good question.
I guess I didn't get upfront fees.
I just, I saw it was an email return back, hey, we can get you this interest rate, which is a pretty low interest rate, but.
I'm assuming there would be a small, we are not,
We have an account there, though.
we do have accounts there, we have loans there already. So there may be I don't think we have any with Bank First since it's been Bank First.
Right.
So I don't know what the closing fees would be if there's minimal closing. I will say we are not, Ellers has provided guidance, but we are not, again, on Facebook, we're paying consultants, we're not. Ellers, there's no fee for Ellers providing us the information on how to do the loan and the timing and so forth. So any fee would just be the closing cost of the loan.
Okay, so we have 3 proposals. The lowest is Badger Bank at 5.25, but there's no mention of any closing cost, and we can find out about that. How do we want to deal with our budget? We have to make a decision here.
Well, we can, I mean, the public hearing is at the next meeting. The public hearing is before our next meeting, and our next meeting is really when we approve our budget.
Which is when we would have to make this final decision,
Right, that's when we'll have to make a final decision as to whether we want to go with a $300,000 loan, or if we're going to find cuts up to $300,000 worth.
I do need to let them know so they can prepare the paperwork and the resolutions for us to adopt at the next meeting.
Right, we're gonna figure out, we're gonna pick which one we'd go with,
Yeah.
so you can have all that paperwork, whether we
Yeah.
choose to sign it or not at that meeting, because we don't, just
We
because you
don't-
have the paperwork
No.
doesn't mean we
No,
have to sign.
exactly,
Right,
exactly.
Right, so I'll make a motion that we go with a loan from Badger Bank.
I will second that.
Okay.
Any other discussion on,
5.25%.
yeah, 5.25%. That's what that
If you
sits
could
at right
just
now.
find out.
Ryan, any questions?
What the closing cost is.
The only thing I wanted to say, Paul, you're about to say some other action items for how, so we don't get here again, right? I think that's the whole thing, right? We got a short term, cutting anything right now is almost impossible. We're in the middle of winter and all this other stuff. But I think for the public's confidence, it's not that we go back and look at our last budgets and see where we can cut. We start from a base of we balance the budget, and then we see how we got to get to that level. I think that would help. And it does maybe take a look at some cuts, but it gives us time to look at that. So
Correct.
hopefully we can work towards that.
That's my goal.
Okay, thank you.
Kristen?
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Okay. I don't have anything either. But
We have a motion, a second. Did we get the vote on the?
no,
No.
no,
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 not yet.
that's what I'm
We're
gonna
still
do.
in discussion.
I'm going to call the matter to vote, but I'm going to also ask for roll call.
And we're just, let me clarify, I just want to clarify. This means we are just getting paperwork prepared. We are not voting to sign it. We are not.
That will be
this
done
is-
at the next meeting.
This is not set in stone yet.
Correct. This is not
Okay.
set in stone.
Okay.
But I will want to tell you, at the next meeting, if you're saying, if you're going to vote a no on taking out the loan, you need to be prepared with, here are all of the things that you would cut to balance the budget.
Correct. Yep.
Yep, okay.
Yep. Yep.
All right.
Okay, roll call, Lisa.
Blackwood,
Yes.
Hollenbeck,
Yes.
Krakow,
Yes.
Reinig,
Yes.
Franklin, McNeil.
Yes. All right. So the next meeting, and we're going to be talking about all this. We'll get to that, I guess, when we get into this.
The public hearing will be before the
Yes, at
board?
6:30.
So the
6:30
public
and
hearing
then
is
the
at
board.
6:30,
and then the board
and that's when
immediately
we
after.
can.
Yeah.
And I
However
guess-
long the public hearing is how long the public hearing is, and then the meeting's after it.
Okay.
Okay.
For the public out here, how does the public hearing work? Those that have never been to one before.
Get 3 minutes again, or 2.5 minutes, or what's this?
She's about to explain.
It is, the board can limit the time. I will have sign-up sheets for people who want to speak. They can sign up, so we have an idea of who wants to speak, how many people we have. You can also just oppose or for it on the sheet without speaking. Share that information.
It'll be no less than 2 and no more than 3. It depends upon how many people show up that want to speak. So,
When is that hearing?
26.
26.
November
before.
26th.
Yes.
6:30.
Okay, so at the same time as the village.
No, we'll have it
Before-
after.
Right after.
The village board meeting will
The same
be
day.
immediately following the public hearing. Yep. That's usually how we do public hearings, when we need to have one. We try to put them on the same day.
And I think it's for all of us to, and I say all of us, to look at it and see what's acceptable as far as cuts, if that's the direction we want to go. Knowing they could be very deep.
And then also with an understanding, and not everyone's going to do it when they're looking through this, but some of these things can't be cut.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like the $125,000 road aid, that has to be in there.
Right.
We can't.
Some of those are the
Right.
pass-throughs. and
Right. So yeah.
So,
does everybody have access to the budget?
Yep. From it's
It's
included
on the
in today's
website.
packet, so it's
Okay.
in. If they
Yeah,
go
I-
to the website
yeah.
and go to today's packet, they'll have a copy of it.
and it's newspaper? No, not the newspaper.
No,
The-
that's
Well,
the.
that's-
The
yeah.
public notice.
That's the public
is-
notice.
That is
Okay.
in the newspaper.
Not the line-by-line budget thing
yeah.
wasn't posted in the
Okay.
paper.
Okay.
Are the items that are set in stone, are they noted in the budget?
I didn't,
She has to.
The pass-throughs?
No, they're not
No, they're not.
noted.
No.
Can they be?
no. We're not going to, law enforcement, we have a contract with Deerfield, and that pricing is given to us by Dane County. And there's no negotiations on this. I mean, here's your half, here's your half.
Can we
I think
give?
she's just asking for which things are
Yeah.
things we
Yeah.
cannot
Can-
do,
It
which
is
leaves what
that
is left that
it's-
actually would be able to be cut.
Can
Right.
we
Okay.
give some indications of just quick, brief, what cannot be cut out? I know there's probably more than.
Yeah, we'll be
Or
here
is
for a
that
while.
something we could just call Paula up and ask her, and you would give it to us, give us a list?
If I can try.
Okay. All righty. Next meeting is going to be a good one. Sounds like we'll have some people here for the public hearing.
And I hope we do. I really, really, I truly want to hear, because I don't want my taxes to go up any more than anybody else does. I want to keep our services. I want to keep, I truly want to know what is acceptable. And that's my, it's I don't think any of us are going to like it. But I truly want to know what are considered acceptable. And we absolutely, I think, will go from, take that information into account.
All right. Okay, moving on. B, LRS renewal, trash and recycling services. We had a 5-year contract, and we asked them to come back with a 3-year contract. I got to be honest, I looked at this, but what I was looking for was a change in the pricing. Did we?
It went up.
Yeah.
It went up. He said it might.
Right, which you
Yeah.
did say, and it makes sense, so
Yeah.
I think we go with a 5-year. I mean,
Yeah.
they've provided us really great service. We've had way less complaints about them than we did our previous people. And the last RFP round that we did with them, they were the cheapest.
Okay.
And because it was a pretty significant, this is a pretty significant difference, right?
7.6% increase per year versus a 5% increase per year.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
50% more. All right, anybody want to, did we approve this? We haven't approved
We
it.
haven't approved
That's what we're
it.
doing today.
All right, okay. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 5-year, is it extension, addendum, new contract? How do I word it?
Yeah.
Just a
Renewal.
Extension.
5-year extension.
With
Okay.
LRS.
You got to,
Yes, with LRS.
I'll second.
okay. Any discussion? It is money, so roll call, please.
Hollenbeck,
Yes.
Krakow,
Yes.
Reinig,
Yes.
Franklin, Blackwood,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. Okay. All right. Moving on, item 9C, Fire Commission update. Chris, what can you share?
Yep, well, we have a all municipality meeting tomorrow in the town of Christiana. I believe it's at 18:30.
That would be
6:30
6:30 for us
yeah,
non-military people.
So, I believe a lot of it is going to be closed.
Sounds closed, yeah.
So hopefully, it's just the communities. I don't believe there's going to be any legal representation there. So hopefully we can get in the room and hash some things out and figure out what we need to do to move forward as a fire commission. So.
All right. That meeting is at 6:30.
Yes,
Correct.
All right. I had it down at 6, so that's why I'm just confirming.
You will be early.
I would be early. All right. Okay. So,
That's pretty much what I have for an update.
all right. Are they inviting in all of the municipal boards?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Who's all going to make it? Can you make it? All right, so 5 of us. We don't know. Chuck is,
I believe Chuck is still
fine.
gone.
okay, he'll be gone. All right, so 5 of us. So I'll see you all tomorrow night at 6:30. Okay.
There's an agenda out there, and I believe it's all been posted
It-
properly. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was sent out with our postings.
Okay. Okay, correspondence, I see nothing. So we've got some questions, referrals to staff on a number of items. The budget hearing, November 26th, big one. You want to make sure that's there. We're working on this room tax ordinance, correct?
Yep. Economic
Right.
Development's going to take one more look at it.
All right, the fee schedule resolution,
Dane County is changing dog license fees, so we have to up our fees to cover
The
what we
costs.
have to pay Dane County.
you know, what I found interesting is going through this budget, we collect, how much, what's a dog license? Somebody out there help me out.
Roughly $20.
$20? You know how much the village of Cambridge gets for that? We collect it. You know how much we get? And we get 75 cents.
25 cents.
Oh, 20?
25 cents a dog from Dane County.
Yeah.
The money goes back
Yeah.
to the county and the
Oh,
state.
close to the county.
Dane County and state gets it all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so we got to
It's
do it.
even enough to cover the poop bags.
It's not even, it's not enough to cover our administrative costs to
Holy
send out the
cow.
bills.
Yes, so.
Yes.
All right. Okay, we also, bike trail, we got that on a future agenda item. Ongoing projects, legal engineering.
Why do we need the bike trail on
I was going to say,
future
what is
agenda
it?
items?
Can we what is the,
So I think, have we gotten the final accounting of how much Cambridge had to cover?
How much over we were.
Because I would like to go back to the Bike Trail Committee and ask them to pay Cambridge back for that money. Because when we agreed to be their pass-through, they told us that we wouldn't have to pay more than what we had committed.
And I want to say it's roughly 20,000, but yeah.
And you know what, right now, we can really use that $20,000.
Yeah.
So if you can find out what that number is, I'll call the couple of people that I know.
Steve Struss.
And I don't know if Steve's still on it.
Yeah, he
I
is.
think
He is.
Okay.
He is,
But
there's others, yeah.
I'll talk to Laura and Kate is who I was thinking of. Yeah.
All right, so we'll leave
Maybe not.
Bike Trail
Yeah.
in for a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. Legal engineering, you know,
They were both working on, I just got today from MSA, the projects they're working on currently. I had some from Jane. There's others out there that, and she's a little hesitant to say what are outstanding fees because it depends what the board asks her to do.
Correct, yeah.
Kind of a list of projects that are there on the radar then, so.
all right.
Because that'll be something for next year's budget,
Yeah.
for the 20, that I'm going to want to look at
in the
is what are
future.
ongoing projects, what are ongoing contracts, what are, that's what I'm going to probably start with in January. And it'll be good for whoever we hire as treasurer to help get their feet wet with like a project like that right away might help as well.
Okay. I've got some other items.
What
what
comment?
is that?
Yeah, public comment. Well, I just don't know if it's follow-up on public comment.
No, it was the whole discussion, should a board member be able to speak as a resident during public comment, so.
Well, these are follow-up items. Number one was the floor for Amundsen. Did we get anything resolved with
Judy
that?
is looking into that.
I got a call from Mike over at the foundation, and he wants to know what's going on with that. Number two, I see that we have a big building right behind the Amigos construction. Do we have a building inspector and build?
He has been sent out there to talk to them. I don't know for sure if they have received applications from them, but yes, I did send the building inspector out there.
All right.
He ceased work until building permits were requested.
Okay, and then lastly, how are we doing on our website? Is that up now?
Yeah,
It's all good and
Looks all.
Yeah, really, it's so much easier to navigate.
I do have Judy working on, the old one is not down. Judy is going to work on getting that taken down because I was trying to log in, I can't log into it anymore, there's some incorrect information, so that hadn't been taken down, so she's looking into that.
all right, okay. And then we just, future agenda items, there's all these public comments, so, but it's there.
I don't know if we need that on there.
Do we need the public comment anymore?
Not
No,
on
I-
that.
I mean, because we had
We
talked
have it,
about,
yeah.
we had talked about via email, so I don't,
I think
It's
that's
more of an
all.
education
Yeah.
piece
Yeah.
for the board.
Right.
Yeah.
it was more of it for the board's education.
Okay,
And that's something we could do when we do our next
Oh, 101.
101.
all
Sure
right.
we can.
Okay, there's some upcoming meetings. November 13th, Library Board, that's tomorrow night, and then a joint meeting with the commission members out at town of Christiana. The 19th is Water and Sewer, and the 26th is our public hearing and our board meeting, which takes us all the way up to item 13. Help me out, please, somebody.
I'll make a motion to convene into closed session per 19.851 Echo, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and 19.851 Golf, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, Fire and EMS Commission, and per 19.851 Charlie of the Wisconsin statutes to consider the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of village employees, public works position.
Second.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Krakow,
Yes.
Reinig,
Yes.
Franklin, Blackwood,
Yes.
Hollenbeck.
Yes.
McNeil.
Agreed, yes. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute